Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Honeybee Stamps Happy Hearts and also their Grain and Grunge paper pads. For a sentiment, I have their Bountiful banner stamp and coordinating honeycut dies. And I also have two other die sets, their Deckle edge squares and also fancy fall layering frames. The Happy Hearts paper pad was released last year. It's a beautiful collection, and I did make quite a few cards with it, although I never ended up using up the paper pad. So I had lots of small scraps left over. I decided to pull that out and use up some of those smaller paper scraps. For the background of my card, using one of the lovely Grain and Grunge pattern papers, cut it down to A2 size. 5.5 inches by 4 1/4 inches. I'm adding a panel of white shimmer cardstock, and I cut this piece to 5 inches by 3.5 inches. I selected two of the pattern papers from the Happy Hearts collection, two blue designs, and I cut them out using one of the Deckle edge square dies. I'll be adding all 6 squares on the white shimmer cardstock panel. Before adding adhesive, I'll first lay out all 6 squares, then I'll start adhering them down. That way I can get them evenly spaced. I'll start with the bottom row, then start working on the front. And I like to do the outer 2 squares first and then add the middle square. The nice thing about using the Deckle edge squares versus a traditional square, the squares don't have the straight edges. So even if they aren't perfectly spaced, you can't really tell. Next, I'll stamp the sentiment Thinking of You. This is from the Bountiful banner stamp set. I have a piece of white cardstock in my mini MISTI. I'm using Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink color. And I also have their pressure stamping tool. That helps get a nice even impression when you're stamping. Once I'm happy with this sentiment, I'll use the coordinating banner die and cut it out. And I'm using some tacky tape to hold the die in place. Instead of adding the banner directly onto the card, I'll first put one of the fancy fall layering frames underneath. I used some vellum for the frame, and I love how the die adds the fun embossed detail. I'll put glue on the back of the sentiment banner, adhere it on the vellum frame. Then I'll flip it over and pop it up with some foam dimension. I'm using Honeybee Stamps white foam strips. And I'll make sure to only put foam dimension behind the sentiment banner. That way it doesn't show through on the vellum. I'll remove the release paper. But before adding it to the card, I'm using some metallic cord. I'll wrap a bit of the silver cord around my fingers. Then I'll slowly stretch it out on my craft table, creating this fun silver metallic nest. I want to make sure it's big enough so you'll still be able to see some of the silver cord around the vellum frame. Now I'll place the sentiment on top of the silver cord, flip it over, and tuck in the ends of the cord. And I'm trying to make sure that all of the cord pieces are adhered on the foam. I'll also add a little bit of glue on the cord areas. Then I'll place the sentiment with the frame and silver cord on the center of my card. I love the look of the metallic cord peeking out around the sentiment. And since it's nice and thin, it doesn't add a lot of extra bulk to your card. For embellishments, I'm using the Shimmer and Shine enamel stickers from Honeybee Stamps. There are clear enamel stickers and also silver glitter. For this card, I'm using the silver glitter. I'll put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 in the lower right-hand corner around the sentiment. Since I'm trying to use up more of the pattern paper scraps, I did end up making a total of 5 cards. The pattern paper for all of the cards is from the Happy Hearts and also Grain and Grunge collection. And for some of the cards, I used the gold Glimmer enamel stickers from Honeybee Stamps. I love having general sentiments for my cards, and I think I'm off to a good start for 2024, having 5 general cards ready to go. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope everyone has a safe and healthy new year.